Hello, we are going to do our mermaid canvas painting. In your kits, you should have gotten a stencil of the mermaid and as well as some carbon paper. This will be in a little plastic pouch. If you want to unravel that and get your canvas, some of you will have frame canvases, some will have canvas panels. What we're going to do to trace them is you're going to put the dark side down, and then I'm going to place my girl, and you can kind of feel with your fingers kind of along the edge of where you want it to go. I'm just going to kind of sit it right at the base of my painting, and I'm going to hold firmly with my left hand. You can trace along your lines with a pencil or a pen, doesn't matter, anything with a point on it. And so I'm just going to trace a line, and then I want to hold down on that and make sure it's coming through. And then I'm going to trace right along all of the girl and the details, so that way it's traced and you'll be good to go. Now that we have our mermaid traced on, we are going to start to paint. We're going to be working first by her face. I'm going to use a paper plate and pour some of my colors on there. You're going to pour the beige, already pour some of that, a little bit of the white we're going to scoop out. I'm just going to scoop a little bit of this out of here. And I'm going to mix her skin color. So I'm mixing a little bit of beige, a little bit of white, whatever darkness I want. That looks pretty good. A little bit of the lighter side. I'm keeping some of this darker beige over here to add foreshadowing. But I'm just going to scrape up my brush, and I'm just going to lightly start painting down and around. You can dip your brush into a little bit of water. Use a little bit of that watered down to go over her eye and her eyebrow, as well as around her nose, so that way you can still see your pencil marks. I'm just going to kind of wipe it off and then keep painting. You have your small brush to get in there too. Again, watering down that little bit is going to help a lot with making sure you can still see her eye and her eyebrow, as well as her nose. Let's turn that brush sideways. Again, if you don't want her tone to be this dark, just mix some more white. I'm going to take a little bit of that darker color and go right underneath her hairline here. I'm just going right along her hairline, right underneath. And to me, mermaids would be pretty tan and getting some rays. And take a little bit of that darker color and go right underneath her chin. And get some water. Wash my brush so that way you can still see her necklace. Too much is white, but you could also take a little bit of white. If you get anywhere that's too dark, just take a little bit of your white. Maybe I want to lighten right around by her nose a little bit, and a little bit by her forehead, lighten her chin, her eye. I'm going to curve on her cheek a little. Do a little bit light under here. Shadowing doesn't have to be very complicated. We just know the right techniques. Again, you can take a clear brush or clean brush, a little bit of water. Move that around. Wipe off some of that darker paint. So now while that's wet, I also want to add a little bit of warmth to her cheek. So I'm going to take a little bit of pink. And I'm just going to take a little bit off that lid. So I got a little bit of pink on that brush. And I'm gonna mix it with some of the lighter colors. This is why a palette of some sort is very important on this one. So I'm gonna make a nice little blush color, not too dark. Make sure, not too much on there. I'm just going to add just a little bit onto her cheek. As you can see, I just got a little bit on there. I'm gonna blend it out. I'm gonna do a little bit right on her nose too. I'm gonna wash my brush. Get a nice clean brush. And I'm just going to smooth this out. Just doing that nice little U shape. You can grab a little bit more of your lighter skin color to blend in too. So make it nice and smooth. There we go. Maybe add a little bit more right in the underneath it. There we go. You can use your finger too, just kind of rub it in. Pretty good. Smooth down her neck. And again, just imagine if you're applying moisturizer or lotion to your own face, that's the direction you want to do your brush strokes. So like up and down your nose, underneath your eyes, around your chin. Oops, the brush wasn't clean. I'm going to darken a little bit over here a bit more. Maybe a little bit more shadow underneath her hair. Get in her hair a little bit, that's okay too. You can also use your small brush. Use whatever brushes you're comfortable with. That looks pretty good. So next I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of this white. It's on the edge, it's very, very light, got a little bit of beige on there. And I'm going to go right along her nose and right up the bridge of her nose. Making sure it's got a nice highlight on there on the side. I'm gonna go underneath her eyebrow a little bit, and I'm also going to go underneath her eye just a little. Right here, with that middle part of her lip, and just a little bit of highlight right on her chin. And again, if you need to take a little bit of that darker to go along, shadowing along her face a little bit, you can. And take a little bit of that darker as well, right underneath her nose line. And we're gonna let that dry. Now that our face is done, we are going to work next on painting some of our background. And I'm going to do my background purple with a little bit of dark blue. So I'm going to scoop out a little bit of purple. Wipe your brush off. So it's a little bit of this dark blue color. And I'm going to kind of mix those together. If you want it to be a little bit lighter on the purple side, you can. I'm just going to start painting it. I'm going to be using my small, my medium brush to start getting all of those around here. I'm going to use my small brush to get in those little nooks and crannies. Now we're going to work and paint your entire background. Remember, you can pause these videos. I'm going to hyperlapse some parts so that way the video is not too long and it doesn't take too long to upload. Next, we're going to work on her hair. We have our background is nice and dry. I'm going to start first with my medium brush. It's clean. I'm going to be using both of the aqua colors for her hair. I'm going to start first by applying some of the light color. I'm just going to scoop a little bit out onto my palette just to make it a little bit more manageable. And I'm going to pick a section of her hair, making sure to go around my starfish. And I'm just going to start painting downwards. You can use your small brush, make sure to get into those little spots. And I'm just going to start smoothing out any of those clumps and working downwards. And so next I'm going to grab a section that might be a little bit darker, like underneath here. I'm going to take a little bit of her darker blue, dark turquoise. So I got both on my palette. I'm going to take a little bit of that. I didn't wash my brush, so it's just got a little bit of light and the dark on there. And I'm just going to go right underneath, doing these nice long strokes, giving our hair that little bit of a two-tone look. Then you can grab a little bit more of the light color, as well as double dip in with your brush as you're painting. So take your time and make sure you pause the video. We're just going to paint all of her hair. You're going to want to use your small brush when you get up into around her crown. And then we'll dry it. The hair is done. It's nice and dried. I streaked some of that color through with my small brush. Remember these videos, you can pause at any time. You can come back, rewind, rewatch it. We're going to work next on some of the shells at the top and get the base coat onto those. You can really pick and choose whatever colors that you would like to paint them. I'm going to mix some of those colors a little bit lighter. So I'm going to scoop a little bit of this pink out. Here you see, I'm going to scoop a little pink. Scrape. Wash my brush off so that way I'm not contaminating the cups. I'm going to grab a little white, put it kind of in the middle there. I already got some of the blues and the purples and my other colors. And I know that I want to mix a light pink. I want to make some of the shells, a couple different shades of pink. So I'm mixing a little bit of that in the wash. As well as I know I want some light purple, so I'm gonna mix a little bit of light purple as well. And I'm gonna use my small brush to start painting them in. I think my starfish I want to have the dark pink, so I'm just going to place and paint them with the dark pink. So that way when I do the little white dots on the top, it'll be a nice contrast. And you're just going to use your small brush to just paint in each of your shells, taking your time. If you have other colors at home that you want to incorporate, you can do that as well. Like the stencil is just a guide. You could, if you want your starfish to be a little bit thicker than the skinny starfish, you can make them a little thicker too. I love pink and turquoise together, they're great colors. In between doing your shells in different colors, you want to make sure to wash your brush. So I want to apply a little more pressure, it'll just thicken the areas that I want it to thicken. And I'm just going to start using some of these pastel colors, maybe mix even a little light blue and white together to paint in my background of my shells. So we have all of our base coats of our shells on here. When I painted, I also used my small brush and took some white and pulled right over that color just for that extra little bit of highlight along there. And we are going to start working on our mermaid face. We're going to be using our small brush. I'm going to get wet a little bit of the dark turquoise, along with a little bit of blue for her eyebrow. If you want to mix and have some beige and black for a more natural type of brow, you can, but I'm going to be using, again, that dark turquoise, dark blue. And I'm going to just go right along. Add a little bit of water to it too. You're going to start a little bit smaller and then you can gradually add. Take a little bit of that lighter color and I'm going to add just a little bit of highlight right along that top part. And a little bit of depth and dimension. So I want to work next on her lips. I'm going to mix a little bit of pink and white. You can use whatever shade you want. I'm going to apply where I'm going to want it a little bit darker, so right along this line here. I'm going to wash my brush off. I'm just going to use that little bit of the damp brush just to pull that color and get a nice soft lip. You can also take a little bit of your natural nude color to add on there a little bit, just to kind of soften those lines if you want it to be more of a natural type of look. I apologize for that sound. There's a car outside that's very noisy. Just gonna lightly paint it in. So again, by taking a little bit of that natural color and not too much pink paint, we got that beautiful lip here. I'm gonna take next some black. Add a little bit of a little bit of water to my black. Grab a little more. Just thinning down to that paint. Always wipe your brush off when you do that. Then take that clean brush, grab a little bit of the black color, and I'm going to go right along the inside of my eye, a little bit of a curve. Then I'm going to grab a little bit more of the paint that has a little bit more paint, a little more paint, less water, and I'm just going to thicken and pull out that little bit for her eyelashes. Also, I'm going to be using a little bit of that watered down black. Kind of test it on the side of your palette. I'm going to use a little bit of that for adding just a little bit of outline and shadow. Right along her face. Pulls her hair. And pull down some of those lines of hair. And go right underneath her nose a little bit. And see how that watered down? I'm not taking a lot of dark colored paint. I'm just taking that little bit of that watered down and go right under her nose. So I'm going to go around these shells. I'm going to outline each of my shells. Starfish, you can take a little bit of that right underneath her eyebrow. really want you to take your time. Getting that watered down paint is going to get you to a lot of those long strokes that are going to be more transparent. They're not going to be super dark. If you get a spot that is too dark, you can just take a damp brush, just apply a little bit of water and just smooth it out. Or you can go back and take a little bit of that pink color as well and just smooth right along that line too, just to make it a little more. I'm gonna upturn her mouth a little bit with that as well. So just going in, adding all those details, really enjoying it, taking your time. I kind of hopped around from down here to back and forth so that way my hand's not sitting on this wet paint. So if you notice in these tutorials I'm jumping from place to place, a lot of times it's so I don't put my hand on the wet paint I just applied. Let's clean up all these lines. And on your stencil, you can always refer to your stencil if you lost your lines. You can refer to some of the direction of the line work that is on that. Everybody's is going to be a little different. If you choose that you don't want to do the outlining, that's your choice. You don't have to. But adding some water to it and getting used to that water down technique is going to elevate your painting game. It is going to be a game changer. Because that water down, I can just keep adding. So some of the last touches we're going to do after we got all the outline done is I'm going to take some of my white. I'm going to dip into it with my small brush. I want to add a few little accents onto my starfish. I'm just dotting right down on each one. Said earlier too, we don't want you to be stressed by the length of these videos. We want you to be able to pause, rewatch, go through as many times as you need. The reason we're keeping them a little bit shorter is so that way they won't take as long to upload. And again, these are just a guide. You can be as creative as you want. We want to see your pictures when they're done. I'm also going to add just a few pearls up here by just creating some little circles. And maybe one right here. So white dots. I'm going to take a little bit of white. And on the stencil, it has where you're going to place a little bit of white for the reflection on her lips. You're going to take a little bit of white, add a little bit of water to it so it's not too bright. We want some transparency, but we want it to look like a little bit of shine. So I'm going to add just a little bit on her bottom lip here. Just a little bit there. Whoops, too much water. It's too much, then just grab a little more paint. Right there. You can always just blend a little bit of pink back in there if it's too much. Good. I'm going to add a little white for her earring here. well as some dots right along for her necklace. Now to give a little bit of depth and dimension to my pearls that we placed on there, I'm gonna water down a little bit of blue. And it could be blue or a little bit of the turquoise or a little bit of both. I'm kind of just using what's on my palette. So I'm watering that down a little bit. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that water down and just add just right along the curve of the left side, just a little bit of that pigment. It's not a whole lot. You can do it while it's wet, or you can wait for it to dry. It sounds a little thick right there. I'm just pulling right along. Just a little bit. And because we have a necklace on there, I want to add just a little bit of shadow. So I'm going to take a little, water down a little bit of that beige. And I'm just going to shadow right underneath and very watered down. So shadow just a little bit more around her hair underneath. Maybe in that inside little crest of her nose. Take right along that part of her eyelid. And if you're a little nervous about that step, it's still gonna look great. You don't have to do those extra little bits. I don't want you to be afraid of it though. The key again is just making sure you water that down. And then just slowly add more pigment when you want it. And that's gonna do it for our mermaid today. So I think she just turned out absolutely beautiful. I want you guys to really have fun with this. Again, make it your own, add some extras. We wanna see it when you're done. And thanks for painting.